Welcome back to Down Under Politics. I still can't remember if that's what I actually named this or not, if I put the words the other way around, because it's generic as fuck and I love it. Tonight we have Tom, David, and myself on to talk about something a little bit more international. Because while things did happen in Australia, apparently it's all boring as shit.
Usually
Um,
is.
that and Trump got raided, and I find this hilarious. So let's start there. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Centrum. Centrum multivitamin. I'm kidding. We do not have a sponsorship from Centrum, mainly because, well, I never sent the email. It's all my fault. I'm terrible.
None of this was recorded after our session.
So Centrum, if you want to sponsor us, reach out, and I may or may not respond to you. There's also possible that they already sent an email and it's just got caught by my spam filter with the rest of the Centrum emails from me doing one Google search.
For viewer context, this came up after last week's talk about the Centrum logo or the Pride logo on the football jerseys. When Jono posted this in a chat, he wrote, "We need to talk about the Centrum sponsorship." And my first impression was that somehow he had worked into getting a Centrum sponsorship for the podcast, and I was a bit thrown as to why the hell someone like Jono would accept a sponsorship for a multivitamin supplement company.
Because multivitamins are obviously not a scam.
And why they would.
Isn't there like 3 people watching?
Yeah, something like that. But look, the point is,
take your multivitamins.
Yeah, take your multivitamins. It's definitely not the ingredients for expensive urine. Anyway, so for those who don't keep up with the news, congratulations, you're the most sane person on the planet. But Trump got raided by the FBI. And everyone on Twitter is losing their shit about it, apparently, which entertains me greatly. Basically, from what...
Well, they upset about it, or?
Yes, very upset about it, which we will get into. David, if you could get some... you send me a link for some of those Twitter feeds, and I'll put it on the screen for everyone to view.
Yep, give me 2 seconds. I'm just getting Twitter open now.
But basically... Trump got raided because he took some no-no documents home from the White House, and despite the FBI and or White House or whichever officials were like, "Hey, dude, can you give us back these top secret documents? We kind of don't want them floating around out there." He was just like, "What documents? I don't have any documents. What are you?" Actually, no. I'll try to do a better Trump impersonation. I don't have any documents. That is the worst Trump impersonation ever. But you get the point. He had some documents he shouldn't have had. Very naughty boy. He needs to bend over and get a firm spanking from the FBI. So they raided his country club or whatever it is at Mar-a-Lago, which is, fantastic if you're the FBI and you want your documents back. Not so fantastic, as we later found out, allegedly, they were related to top secret nuclear activities. Not at all terrifying.
I have just sent
those ones.
Oh yeah, I have no idea why he would want those ones. But apparently he does.
I think the hilarious, and I've shared 2 links for the 2 tweets that I did share you, which came from Candace Owens and Stephen Crowder. I think the hilarity of the whole thing was to see American left and right wing politics to immediately. There was no evidence. There was nothing. It was just, hey, the FBI is raiding Trump's place.
Do you have any?
Everyone just jumped to their.
Do you have any tweets from lefties freaking out about it? Because I mean, I don't go on Twitter because it's just kind of a wasteland of bullshit.
Who's a good one?
But
who's a good lefty? I don't follow
lefties
many.
that I do pay attention to when it comes to American politics is mainly Kyle Kalinske and the Young Turks. And basically, both of them were like, hey, this has happened. We don't know why. We'll provide updates when we know more. Which seems very level-headed as opposed to what's on your screen right now. Candace Owens, the FBI must be legally and formally dissolved. What happened to President Trump is positively stunning and a mark of unchecked government power. Candace, babe, you're so close to being correct on something that
Former
you'd said. But yeah, as Tom just said, former president. So there's a minor correction to start with. But also, yes, it is positively stunning that this had to happen, because what kind of a fuckwit do you have to be to take home nuclear-related documents? Like, what did you think was
Well,
going to happen?
I just think that everyone jumped to. I find it interesting, and as someone who sits squarely in the center, I
Filthy
typically I look at quite a lot of. I have quite a few of these people just in Twitter, and I've watched their videos. A lot of their stuff I agree with. There's plenty that I don't, but I found it quite funny that as soon as he was raided, they immediately jumped to his defense, even though there was no. It was like, wait a minute, does he actually have documents? Because if he does, there's grounds for that. And since then, they've now released the well, I can't remember the name of the person requested the release by the FBI of the warrant. So they've actually released the warrant publicly for everyone to read as to the grounds they had to get the warrant and search the place.
I didn't know they'd actually released it.
It's interesting that now these people have kind of all gone silent.
It's almost like, and this is my personal opinion, Candace Owens is a shill with no actual thoughts of her own.
I think they just have knee-jerk reactions and they say the thing that
That too. Oh look, I think the other tweet is even more
because
hilarious.
they see politics as sides rather than ideas.
I'm just having a look. What day was it? I'm looking on the Young Turks now.
They've been talking about it for a bit. Oh, I don't want that. Where? Wow, Crowder tweets a lot. Oh, fuck, that guy's an idiot.
I don't know if you watched his video with Kyle Rittenhouse was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Oh,
there's a topic for a later discussion.
So, as who here remembers when the Black Lives Matter protests were going on, and they were talking about defunding the police? Does anyone recall some of the stuff that Candace Owens and Stephen Crowder was saying about that?
Yeah.
You know how it's absolutely ridiculous. How could you possibly even suggest doing such a thing? Who will maintain law and order? Well, oh boy, have I found something fun on Crowder's Twitter for that. Dismantle the FBI. Not only that, but also abolish the IRS. Any Republican not on board in 2022 is out. So all of them, because there is no way a politician in any country is going to say, we should get rid of our bureau that's responsible for investigating stuff federally, and we should also get rid of the agency responsible for collecting government revenue. Because that makes sense. Like,
I think it's funny because I think when I read Candace Owens' tweet, my first thing was, isn't that defund the police?
yes.
It's kind of the same thing, really. I should tweet that back to her.
It's the same kind of stupid, just they, were raised around different groups of people and they just follow the group that they were raised in. But it's always the same kind of stupid. They come up with the same dumb ideas, just with different words.
I can't seem to find the Young Turks really said anything.
No, they haven't really said anything.
They've got stuff there, but it's like from the 11th saying that the first thing I can find is he invoked the Fifth Amendment to decline answering questions.
Oh yeah, I think he did that like 400 and something times off the top of my head. When he was being questioned about it, which is hilarious.
He accused the FBI of planting evidence.
Yeah, well, he was always going to do that.
Color me shocked.
Apparently, they took 15 boxes of documents.
Yeah, that's on the thing. It's I looked at that. There's a lot of things labeled miscellaneous documents.
Well, that's because that's just what they label it as. They don't know what's in it because they don't have time to
Yeah.
go through it when they're there. They just go miscellaneous documents. This possibly contains something that we need, so we're just going to take all of it, sort through it later, so that we're not here for 10 days raiding this place.
Yeah, they can't actually sort it while they're there, so they just try and determine the odds of it having what they need, and that's it.
And they probably
There's very
take,
little paperwork.
they probably take more than they need to.
Oh, no
Yeah.
doubt that they
So-
do, but when it comes to that sort of thing, it's probably better that they take more than they need to than less. Of course, if Trump had just handed over the documents when he was asked 2 months ago,
I probably the one thing I find, and I feel like maybe I've just answered my own question in thinking it, but people have pointed out, why did they take so long? Like, it's been over 12 months that Trump was
Oh, they needed
president.
getting approval for raiding
The
a former
warrant-
president is probably very difficult.
the warrant wasn't easy to get. They needed probable cause, and I think some of his staffers came forward, and that was what tipped it over.
Did you guys actually you wouldn't have, because so I think it was on Friday, the Young Turks Friday show. I saw a clip from it where Anna Kasparian had the best conspiracy theory ever. That it was actually Trump's wife that tipped the FBI off to the documents.
Oh, the left are doing conspiracy theories now.
Yes. Keep in
Oh.
mind that I'll see if I can find the link for it a bit later. But it's a fantastic clip, and she's like very upfront, like this is purely speculation zone, and is kind of a joke. And they kind of went through and was like, this is the idea that it was his wife that set it off, and then went through a whole bunch of clips from when Trump was president, and was showing like every time like Trump would try to hold a hand in public or anything, how she'd just like pull away, like, dude, you're a fuckwit. It was quite funny.
Oh, she's just waiting for him to die.
Aren't we all?
Uh-oh.
No, aren't we all waiting just to die?
I think she's only really with him for the fame of it, and once that fades, if he loses the next election, she'll leave him and sell a tell-all book, which would be great.
Look, at the risk of having to eat my words in 2 years' time when the next US election is, I don't see Trump getting elected again, to be honest.
I think it's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
It depends.
With this raid, that I was actually just before this, I was reading about really like just quickly reading over it to remind myself of some of the stuff I read a few days ago, and they were saying how Biden actually got us. He's been tanking in ratings, but got us like an uplift with all his climate change policies and stuff finally. But Trump actually got a kick out of this raid because of obviously the right wingers' knee-jerk reaction is don't go after their savior.
Yeah,
or their idol, and they will immediately jump into conspiracy land and say this was all set up. And
the thing
you also got to remember it's not compulsory to vote there, so it goes with whoever's got the most passionate supporters.
See, the thing is as well, if Trump runs, you're going to have lefties that don't like the Democrats voting for them just to stop Trump getting back in.
True, you would have that. You would have a counter push of we have to stop him this time. So you would have that, but I just think it would be it'd
depend on a lot of different variables. But there's one other variable that we haven't touched on yet. I forget which one it is, but there's an amendment to the US Constitution that was put in just after the Civil War, which, if enacted, could bar Trump from ever holding public office again. And with this FBI raid, you could have that happen.
Why? Like, I feel like that's a bit extreme.
Because they didn't want Confederates running for president.
What do you mean? I'm sorry, maybe I'm lost. What do you mean, Confederates?
It was in the wake of the Civil War, and they didn't want former Confederate officers
How's Trump a?
Well,
so if he's actually taken
well,
top secret documents.
Oh, if
Yeah.
he's actually convicted, he's technically a felon. That makes sense. You don't want a felon as it, but he hasn't been convicted yet.
I'm just trying to think of what to search to bring it up. Like I'm
That-
saying, if there's a lot of ifs over that statement, but it's theoretically possible that this raid could result in him being barred from ever holding public office again.
There was
Yeah, if
well,
anything comes from,
there was someone I saw on Twitter. I can't remember who posted it, but someone did say, and it might have just been a random, and it got retweeted to hell. But it said, it was obviously a left-leaning person who had said,
14th Amendment it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment states, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elected as president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. So if they can find some way to make that description, make Trump fit that description, he can't run for president again. Which,
it's a very hard thing to do.
if the document,
you have to be pretty conclusive with it.
It would have to be very conclusive. But I mean, it depends on what they've found. Don't know what they've found. 15 boxes of documents is a lot. So who knows what's in there that might fit that description. So I mean, it's entirely possible that Trump 2024 might not even be a legal question.
Man, that's going to piss a lot of people off.
Yes, it is.
Well, someone said on Twitter, a left-leaning person said something like, they'd wrote, the FBI better have fucking grounds because otherwise they just potentially handed it to him on a platter.
Yes.
Which I
mean, that statement
is kind of true.
Got a point.
They definitely had grounds.
Yeah, I don't think they would be doing that if they didn't have grounds.
Like if it turns out that he actually has nuclear documents and, you know, this is a person that you really can't trust with something like that, he's going to use it to bargain with someone.
What?
Or even to brag.
Let's just say hypothetically, and just to be perfectly clear, this is a hypothetical. Let's just say that he had, I don't know, nuclear codes in those documents that he shouldn't have had. What reason could he possibly have for having them other than to sell them? Because it's not like he can call up any nuclear silo and be like, hey, here's the code, launch it. They'll be like, yeah, no, you're not president anymore.
But what the hell?
Yeah, I think the nuclear codes are updated every so many days or something.
Look, I hope so.
It might be like information on locations of things and operation
plans
of the submarines and shit like that. Yeah, and strategy
plans.
But if anything, I think it's either it's sort of a keep an ace in the hole kind of thing. Like he just wants to have something he can use as leverage at some point in some kind of deal, and that seems to be how he operates and has always operated.
Look, to be honest, Trump doesn't always do the wrong thing. I know that's a shock for people to hear, but
yeah,
I'm of the opinion, and I'm going to quote Penn and Teller here on this one, but always assume stupidity before conspiracy. I reckon most likely what happened was that Trump was sure he was going to stay in the White House, so he didn't pack his shit up. So when he finally got given dust boot, they did it in a hurry, and they just accidentally grabbed some boxes that they shouldn't have grabbed, took them with them, and then when he was asked for him back, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he probably genuinely had forgotten they were there. Either that, or he knew what was in there, and it was so damningly incriminating that he was terrified to hand it over, and things just escalated from there.
Well, you think
Or
about if he had handed them
he's,
over, it would have been all over the news anyway,
Yeah, which
and
I
not
don't think he would have liked.
worked in his favor.
So you
he's
think that
always had the
possibly
attitude that he's going to be.
Did he encourage the raid?
you're thinking maybe he encouraged the raid
Maybe.
with the intention of having it blow up.
Oh, there's a
Ooh,
conspiracy.
maybe
now
that's
there's a
really smart.
conspiracy, a centrist conspiracy.
He's a marketing genius.
think
It could be.
I wouldn't call him a marketing genius. He's a fake it till you make it kind of guy.
He really
But,
is the he. Look,
a-
I reckon
a
we
real
could
option
probably
is
ask
he might have-
Mrs. Trump, and she would say that he is all about faking it.
No, I think maybe like knowing what he's like, he could be it could be basically a tantrum. Like he's always had the attitude that he's going to be back in office real soon. Like he went to court and everything to try and make it happen. So he doesn't want to hand him over because he doesn't see Biden as his actual replacement, and he doesn't think he needs it. And he shouldn't hand him over because he's the real president, that kind of thing. He's just probably having a tantrum.
He does seem like a petulant man-child most of the time, so yeah, that seems believable too.
There was now I can't remember what I was going to say.
Wunderbar.
There was something I was going to say about when you said before about he doesn't always say things wrong, and this is something that I remember. Man, I got slammed. I think it was on Twitter or it might have been on Facebook. I got slammed when I retweeted it. It was Trump saying it was around when there was one of the shootings in America. There's so many, so
I'd ask which
I
one,
don't.
but there's
I
like
don't
one
remember which
every
one.
other day.
It was one of the shootings in one of the schools, and it was when the AR-15s kind of went mainstream, and everyone knew what an AR-15 was. And it's footage of Trump sitting across from the NRA, and he says, "How come an 18 like he's sitting there and he goes, why can an 18-year-old buy a drink? Why can a 17-year-old not buy a drink, but they can go and buy an AR-15?"
See, if
that's what Trump and there's a video, and I remember tweeting it, like, why don't you see this on the news? Because you never saw those. And then he's talking about handguns. They're not allowed to buy handguns until they're 21. Why can they buy an AR-15? It's just
wait, are you serious?
And everyone's there's footage of it. I'll go find it. It might have been on Facebook.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
it's really good.
He does say correct things sometimes. I'm not sure if he's doing it on purpose. So.
Well, I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
You know, quite often he only says those things once, and then you never hear it from him again, which kind of implies that someone said you shouldn't have done that, and he's just too dumb to realize what he was doing. But also, he could deep down be kind of smart sometimes.
Look, well, I think it's stupidity rather than conspiracy. I don't think he's a smart person. I just think he's incredibly lucky and just happens to have the right backing to be able to achieve things.
There's a million people just like him, and most of them don't succeed in anything, but occasionally one does, and when they do, they don't stop.
Yep.
So the fake it till you make it people.
I mean, it's kind of like the people who argue, I shouldn't have to wear a seatbelt. We didn't have seatbelts back in the 40s when I was growing up, and we all got through fine. It's like, yeah, you did, but lots of people didn't.
Yeah, you also had
doesn't mean that doesn't mean your method is good.
Survivorship bias.
Don't get me started on survivorship bias.
I seriously think that a lot of sort of Trump's generation was more affected by the lead in the atmosphere than we realize.
that is a very valid point.
Lead in doses to kids at a certain age has a severe effect on their mental capability, and lead was at an extremely high level in the atmosphere when his generation were at that age. And if you look at his generation, they're all fucking nuts. But I kind of see maybe something going on there.
I never thought about that. I remember when leaded. I remember growing up as a kid, Tom, when like my dad got the first car that used unleaded, and he stopped using leaded. I was like, whoa, it's new.
Hey, whoa,
And
I can see
your
things.
dad's car was leaded still for ages.
Yeah,
and you still had
yeah.
that like many like when we were adults, it was having to put lead in it or the additive.
Look, lead
Yeah,
is
you had
much
the alternative. What's
lead
it
is
called?
much more effective at actually
Super.
having an impact on your body than centrum multivitamins.
Getting a lead sponsorship.
Look.
Tetraethyl lead.
Actually, have you guys ever like really read up
Baby
on the
boom is brought
history
to you
of
by lead.
tetraethyl lead?
Have we ever what?
Have you ever really read up on the history of tetraethyl lead?
I've seen the episode of Cosmos,
the
and the is it Veritasium? I think did a
Veritasium's done a
video on it too. Yep.
Actually, I think it is the Veritasium video I'm thinking of. If it is, he titled it somewhere along the lines of how long we can know that something is dangerous but suppress it just because it's convenient. And basically the point of his video was that humanity collectively has known that lead is bad for you since the 1700s. And yet we still went and put it in fuel and used it.
Yeah,
and
I think it was
on top of that, we're still using it today in fuels.
Really?
You want to know what kind of fuels? Light aircraft.
Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So if you live close to an airport, you are dumber than the average person.
Yeah, because the cooling for those engines is too heavy if you don't have the lead. They're mostly air cooled, and you kind of need lead for an air cooled engine that big.
Yeah, I found the video.
That's why a lot of planes converted to rotary.
It's called "The Man Who Accidentally Killed the Most People in History." And the picture's him like pouring something over the earth, saying, "Whoops."
Maybe it was a different video I was thinking of then, but yeah, Veritasium's video on the topic is very good.
But well, that's Veritasium. I remember, I can't remember if it's in that one or the other one, but the ancient Romans actually, they used lead in their pipes.
Yep, that's why.
And then got sick, and that's when they realized, oh, we that's when I think ceramic pipes became a thing, because they realized lead's bad.
Lead's bad. It's actually the reason that lead is Pb on the periodic table, because it's shorthand for plumbium.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which is why it's called plumbing, because the first plumbing, they used lead pipes. So there's a fun bit of history for you.
There we go.
The more you know.
That is a very useless fact that now takes up in my brain.
And I will remember it forever now.
Look, it'll be handy on Friday night trivia.
It's one of those useless facts that I'll just remember for the rest of my life.
But you'll forget where you learned it too.
Look,
probably
one more lead reference before we move on. But Electro Boom actually has a video where he talks about lead and how it's not great stuff. And it relates to Trump as well, because he did a little skit, which I highly recommend checking out. But basically, he's just like, here, have some lead pellets. He's like, oh, I love lead pellets. And he like pretends to eat some. And then he's like, I know how to fix the world. Sticks his head down, puts a wig on, and then starts talking like Trump. And it's quite funny. I'll flick you guys the link later for it. It's quite entertaining. But
I probably should change the solder I use to. I've got 40% lead. It's so hard to use the other stuff though.
60% lead.
I think I actually asked Tom, because I'm a electrical novice, and I think I actually asked Tom. I was using solder, and I was soldering something, and I'm like, I think it just said solder, and then I said, "There's lead-free solder," and he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "How do I know if it's lead-free?" He's like, "It'll probably say." Mine doesn't say; it just says solder.
Yeah, no,
and
that's what
I'd just
we're doing.
been doing it like with my face, like this far away from the
Yeah, don't
the
do
board,
that.
like, "Whew, that's a bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll make sure I lean away next time.
Ventilation is important when dealing with solder.
Get one of these things. One of those. It costs like $20, a little exhaust fan, and they have a filter on it that helps take the lead away.
Or if you're just joining wires together, you can get little like self-contained solder shrink joint things where it's got a little ring of solder in each end of the bit of heat shrink. You put the 2 wires in, you heat it up, it shrinks down and melts the solder in and just joins it all together.
I needed that when doing the lights on my
if you're
printer.
like me and you're constantly soldering and resoldering things because you screwed something up,
Yeah, not the
you
greatest.
can't really use those. It's too expensive.
But look,
Usually I just burn my hand.
for fixing things here and there, they're very handy things, and if you can avoid breathing in lead by using it, then great. Again, lead, more impactful on the body than Centrum multivitamins.
Jono, you're ruining our chance of getting a sponsorship now.
That's fine. I'm okay with this. I have a soul that I'm kidding. Souls aren't real. But look, let's move on from talking about lead and how Trump followers like to snack on it, apparently. Still a hilarious concept, and how they all freak out and want to defund the police. The American right wing now want to defund the police, which I find most satisfying to find out about.
Jono, you need to work on a deep fake of just Trump's voice talking about how great lead is or something. I'm sure someone could make it.
Look, I will just clip that part out of Electro Boom's video because it's pretty good. But look, let's move on to another fun topic, and that would be how much people seem to, and especially the media, and I'm looking at you, Sky News, love to try and group everyone that disagrees with them into some kind of them, and specifically referring to the political spectrum when it comes to left and right. This is a bit of a pet gripe of mine and has been for a while, because I am economically quite a fair way to the left, to surprise nobody. Also moderately libertarian, as we all are. But I seem to get grouped in a lot with communist dictators.
You are the loony left.
I am the loony left, but I'm also the loony, hey, get off my lawn left.
You are currently what looks like wearing an old man robe. So
I look.
Yeah, full old man robe.
Something dark side. Yeah, there we go.
I hate that as well. Like how they any kind of thing where it's trying to group people into like different sides of things, even if they're doing it for good reasons or they think they're doing it for positive reasons. Anything that groups people is primitive.
It oversimplifies it a lot.
And tribal mentality.
It really is tribalism at its worst.
Handle that the world isn't that simple.
Well, I mean,
they just,
for one thing, like, we're, apart from David, but we're all about the same when it comes to how far libertarian we lean. We probably disagree on some social issues here and there on the finer details, but we all generally agree that more freedom is better. But when it comes to economic questions, we then disagree a lot. So to group us all into the same category would be a gross oversimplification that misses all of the nuance. And as a result, you get statements, the one I found out about today, where you get the Prime Minister of a capitalist country who is considered by his party to be incredibly moderate, being called a communist because he doesn't want truckers that are unvaccinated carrying a potentially lethal virus through his country. I am, of course, referring to Justin Trudeau during the trucker convoy thing when truckers were being stopped going to and from Canada to the US because they weren't vaccinated, and they basically chucked a hissy fit and pissed off a lot of people because they were blasting their horns through residential neighborhoods. If you, just as a tip to anyone who is protesting something, maybe blasting horns at people who have nothing to do with what you're upset about, not the greatest tactic for getting people on your side. But yeah, it was either Joe Rogan or Elon Musk. I forget who it was, but one of them called Justin Trudeau a communist. Now, I don't know how familiar everyone is with Canadian politics, but Justin Trudeau is no communist.
He's very irritating. That's all I can say. I hate the way he talks.
Yes. Yeah, but that's just because he's Canadian.
He talks like he talks like he's speaking. Is what I found. Go and watch one of his speeches and just like it's like
you cut out for a sec.
He talks like he's talking to kindergartners or like children.
To be fair, he is talking to North Americans.
Like Julia Gillard.
But it's like he learned the thing of the power of silence. Yeah, it's like he learnt the power of silence and just went to the extreme. He pauses between every sentence and word, and he's all happy and soft. And it's like, just spit it out. We're not children.
I mean, to be fair, Trump kind of talks a bit like that sometimes as well.
But can you guys remember Julia Gillard giving speeches?
No, I usually turn them off.
Yeah, I don't really remember that much. But I do remember her being criticised as talking like a kindergarten teacher. But, I mean...
Like, I get it when you're a politician, you would be surrounded by very dumb people that need things explained very clearly, especially in the media, but you're meant to still talk to them like people.
Okay, story time very quickly. You said dumb people like the media. Now, when I was at uni, I did communication. So I didn't major in like journalism, but I obviously was in classes with a lot of students studying journalism. And I remember at the end of year 3, so final year of university, there was this one class we were doing, and this teacher, there was a test we had to do. It was multiple choice, and it was worth like 10%. Like it was quite a big amount for a multiple choice quiz, and it was going to be done right at the end of the year. And the teacher spruiked it up really, like it's going to be really hard. You need to pay attention. It's going to be, he kept spruiking it up every lesson. And then he made this joke because one of the theorists we study is Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and his surname's like 15 letters long and doesn't spell how you say it. Lovely. And he made this joke. He's like, oh, last year I made the joke. I told everyone I was going to ask you how to spell Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi in the quiz. And like maybe 5 of us kind of laughed. I laughed, and then I realized, and I was like, and we knew it was a multiple choice quiz. So it'd be written on the page, how do you spell? And I'm like, it's going to be on the page. That's obviously what the joke was. And then I remember we got there to do, this is like the week before, we got there to do the quiz. And I'm just sitting there outside the lecture theatre waiting to go in. And then I hear there's this group of 4 people, 2 guys, I think 2 girls, and they were spelling the name to each other.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And I remember looking at them and I'm like, you know you don't need to know that. And they're like, oh yeah, but he said he might put it in the thing that we might have to be able to spell it. I'm like, it's a multiple choice quiz. It's going to be written in the question. And I remember that all their faces were like, oh, I'm like, it was a joke. Oh man. So yeah, I have no look, I have no trust in journalism.
And they now all work for a current affair.
For look, I should hardly be surprised by this, because they're communication students.
It was impressive. Impressive how dumb. They were.
Look, to be perfectly fair, and now I have a uni story, but I had an hour between a couple of classes I was taking in second year. I think it was between one of my law classes and a marketing class I was taking. But I had an hour to kill, so I did up a petition to ban dihydrogen monoxide because I was edgy and thought I was funny. Worst part was lots of people signed it. For those that don't understand why this is funny and shatters my faith in humanity, dihydrogen monoxide is water.
I signed a petition once at the uni for more explosions in chemistry.
I think we should always have more explosions in chemistry.
Against dihydrogen.
What did your petition say was so bad about dihydrogen monoxide?
Well, for one, it's used in nuclear power.
Highly addictive.
It's highly addictive. 100% of people who have ever died have consumed it. It is.
It's in all processed food.
It's in all processed food. What else was there? There was some.
It's using pesticides.
I made a climate change reference to it as well. Climate change is causing more and more of it to appear in our environment. That was it.
I can see why you did this. This would have been fun.
It was quite funny. Also, humanity is doomed, given that there's just one thing that we need to remember about all of this. Every single person that signed that petition is legally required to vote in this country.
Yeah.
So
which is why we need to fix our schools.
Signing it as a joke, because I would have definitely signed it knowing full well what it was.
Yeah, but you see, I wasn't stupid enough to go stand outside of the library that had lots of science students in it. I stood outside of the library that has all the business and law students in it.
Oh.
Which I mean was
they don't know
I was one of them, so. But I'm a dickhead that likes to troll people apparently. But back onto grouping people, because I don't know how we got off that topic. But even just looking at like social values versus economic values, even that grouping people like that doesn't really express things properly. Because when it comes to the majority of things, I'm fully on board with private ownership of them. Like, for example, I hold shares in various companies because I'm totally okay with that. What I'm not okay with is having the profit motive set up as the driver for deciding who and who does not get health care.
Yeah. I think it's
or who does and does not get housing. I don't think the profit motive should be even in that equation at all.
Like everything should be privatized, but there are certain things that if the private market can't provide it to all citizens without gaining a profit, the government should step in and at least provide a government version of it, sort of like the postal service. That's the best example I know of it, where
so
part private, part government, because if it was all private, to get a letter into the desert would cost you a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. That being said, I actually this is where I do find myself going very far left. Like looking at healthcare, for example. So I'm going to explain why I hold this opinion, and then you guys can chime in on this. But I don't think we should have a private healthcare system at all. I think it should be 100% government run. And my reason for this is that by opening up the option for people who have more money to pay for better healthcare, by opening up that option, you have now created a disincentive for the better off people in society to make sure that the healthcare system works properly, because they don't have to interact with it at all. So as a
So I
result, you
think
get people that vote based on this issue and vote for parties like the Liberal Party that want to privatise the entire healthcare system and hang poorer people out to dry when it comes to healthcare. Whereas if you just have it purely government run, you're going to have everyone in society going, oh, I have to use this system, so maybe I should try and make it the best one that I can.
I agree. And I'm
I
typically more
somewhat
right
agree
than
with that. I do think that you should have the option of a private medical system for rich, but it needs to be more expensive than
I
what
think-
it is, and it needs to be where the service they're giving you is the same, like same standard, but you're maybe getting a nicer room, nicer food, stuff like that. But the actual medical treatment has to be on
The
par, and the price gap has to be huge. So it's not just, you've got a decent income, therefore you don't need Medicare anymore, and you stop.
But I
voting.
think, well, I agree with that. I think one way to do it, and this is where I agree with you, Jono, the public system needs to be better. And the private system is, I think we've talked about this before, but the private system is kind of ripping you off a little bit, like most insurances are. But I would say hospital cover and operations and surgeries and that, probably I would, to split it as hearing both of you talk, will be hospital cover should be covered by the government. If you need a surgery or something like that, it should be government. Extras, such as things like sports, physio, and those other optional extra things where they're not really caused by maybe a disease. If they are, you can still get physio and other things subsidized by Medicare as long as you have a doctor refer you. Or you can have those things. But I think extras, like what Tom's saying, if you want to, rather than being in a shared room, you want your own personal room, you pay extra for that. But I think the best way to do that, I would prefer, I don't think any company would do it because it'd be less profit, but you pay for it at the time. You pay for it when you're getting the surgery. You go, hey, I'm willing to pay $4,000 to have a private room or whatever it is, because I don't want to be in a room with 6 other people.
I actually have a bit of a story with this. I know someone that retired recently, and right before he retired, he was diagnosed with cancer and had to get surgery to fix that. And they said that the waiting time for the public surgery is 6 months. And by the end of that 6 months, they give him a 50-50 chance of surviving. If he could have it in a month, it was more like an 80% chance of surviving, but it would cost him $30,000 to have it in a month. The doctor that told him that said that a few years ago, that wasn't the case. He would have had it for free within a month. It was the cuts to the Medicare system that cost him $30,000 of his retirement in order to not die.
See, and that's where I think that it's just seriously fucked up that we have a system where, because you have the private and public system operating in parallel there, you've set a disincentive for people to make sure that when they're at the ballot box deciding the fate of the public system, because I mean Medicare's been a deciding issue at elections many times over the last however many years. It comes up almost every election. You have people deciding based off of this, and they just go, oh, I'm rich, so I don't need to worry about that issue at all. Why should poor people get healthcare? I'm rich. And as a result, you have people literally fucking dying in one of the richest countries on earth because they can't get the medical care they need.
Hey, we're not America, at least.
Look, this is true, we're not.
They're
But
trying to get us there.
I mean, if my leg was cut open, I don't think I'd be satisfied with having like piss in it, because someone argued, well, at least you don't have shit being rubbed in it. I wouldn't accept that ever.
Oh, you're not an optimist, are you, Johnny? Gotta look on the bright side.
Look, I'm I'm a realist. I look at it and go, is this actually acceptable? Just because someone else has it worse does not mean that the situation I'm talking about is
It's
any
good.
less shit.
Another
So
thing too is it's not that expensive for the government to set up. Like when you compare it to their military spending and
that
the
too.
tax cuts they give to mining and all that, they could set up 10 times what we have medically, and all welfare support could be doubled, and it wouldn't really affect anything
It's
if
also
they just, stopped giving tax cuts to people.
it's also prevention is generally better than fixing it afterwards. Like things like I listened to a podcast a while back. It was the David Sinclair on our lifespan podcast, and one of the things I never actually really thought about until I heard that, because he's an Australian who lives in the US. But he said in Australia, on any beach, you will get sunscreen for free. If you don't have sunscreen, you can generally walk up. There'll be sunscreen there for you to use on the pump at the beach somewhere, or the lifeguards will have it. He said that's not a thing in America or most of the world. And that was something set up by the Australian government to prevent skin cancer, because we were the highest country, one of the highest countries in the world for skin cancer, and that because of obviously where we're located and how sunny we get. But it's like that significantly saved the government money in healthcare by just providing a means to prevent it. And I know Medicare now do dental teeth cleans provided, where they will fund, like, I think it's yearly maybe, or
there's a lot of asterisks around that.
Yeah, but things like that, like that's a lot cheaper to do than to have to fix fillings in people years down the track. And then you've got more expensive surgeries.
The guy I was talking about before, he's spent $30,000 of his retirement money to get that surgery. If he had been able to get that for free, it wouldn't have cost the government $30,000, because they go through the government system and they don't have to pay private doctors. And
they pay for what it actually costs. There's no price gouging middleman involved.
And they're now going to be footing the bill for any future issues that he has, or possibly paying the pension for a good portion of the rest of his life, because he's had to spend that money on that.
30 grand, yeah. That 30 grand probably. That 30 grand probably could have funded a pension for 2 years.
Yeah.
That he's now going to possibly have to tap into from them.
I think it's already gotten to that for him.
And to think, if we just didn't have a private system at all, we'd have a properly funded public system, because it turns out that sick and dying people are terribly unproductive. So they're going to, it's in government and business's best interest to have a healthy population.
And going back to what you were talking about, Jono, as to start the topic of categorizing people, perhaps a fun thing we can do later, or not this podcast, is perhaps we'll do the political quiz and then go through the questions and all. I think over the healthcare questions.
We'll do that on a future one when Mitch is here, so it's all four of us, because that'll make it even funner. I was actually expecting to get a lot more pushback on that one.
What? He wouldn't want to do it? Oh, Tom?
No. On the on my opinions on abolishing private healthcare.
Oh, I'm all for it, considering I was supposed to be having an operation only a few weeks ago, and it's funny because I'm pretty sure the doctors are fully price gouging on whether you have private or not. But I found out my private cover does not cover that particular type of surgery, so it meant the difference in price for me. However, the surgery got delayed because I got a cold. The difference in price for me was around the sake of about $4,000.
Ouch, that's such fucking.
It was going to be, if I wait, which I'm probably going to do now because it's been delayed, and now that doctor's on leave until like October or something. So it's like, if I wait, it would cost me maybe $2,500 less. But if I didn't wait,
a lot of money.
I know. If I didn't wait, it was going to cost me nearly $6,000. because the private insurer wouldn't cover anything. So yeah, but that kind of made me like very annoyed that one little thing on like private health, like, oh, we don't cover these things, kind of is like, it's just like, yeah, no, too bad.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, just wait 12 months or, you know, pay for it yourself.
And I mean,
maybe that swayed my opinion.
it's part of the reason why it's why I hold the position when it comes to things like healthcare, housing, even utilities. I think would be far better in government hands. Just because those things have a direct benefit to society as a whole, regardless
Well,
of like they benefit each of us individually if everyone else has them as well.
disagree on the utilities thing, particularly with energy, because it's an incentive for the market to sort of sway more towards green energy rather than have the government try and do that, because that'll take a lot longer.
Look, that is a plus of the market. I will give you that. But that being said, if it was
Probably.
government managed rather than managed by the private market, the government could just come along and be like, yep, we're transitioning to clean energy. And then just do it. And you wouldn't have the, slow rollout as it becomes profitable and whatnot.
That's what I was going to say is the market is great at deciding the most economical and the most efficient way to do something. But that's also its downfall. And I could probably segue this into, I don't know what you're going to talk about, but sodium batteries are not viable because lithium ion has the economics of scale.
Yes.
And that's so hard to overcome. Like, to overcome something that is set up in thousands of factories around the world is just
well, that's
huge.
another example of where we're about to run headfirst into a massive market failure, because we're chucking lithium ion batteries in so many things, and by some of the estimates that I've seen, we're expecting to run out of lithium in the very near future, just because there's not enough of it for all the applications we're throwing lithium batteries in, where it's possibly not the best technology for it. Like for stationary applications where weight's not an issue, space is not an issue, maybe a less energy dense battery technology would be a better option. Or even pick something like sodium, where you don't have to worry about these rare metals. Sure, sodium batteries are less energy dense just because sodium atoms are bigger than lithium atoms. But if, the difference is a few hundred square meters and it's on land. In Australia, where we have a shit ton of land, it's not a big deal. And, the other plus side of sodium is that most of it's going to come out of the ocean, so we can get some fresh water at the same time.
Don't we have giant salt flats as well?
Well, look, there's that too. I don't know how they're going to go about mining the sodium if sodium batteries ever take off. I was just throwing it out there as, hey, here's a possibility of something that might help solve this other problem at the same time. Wouldn't that be great?
We're going to go buy it at the shop. What are you talking about, John? I'll take an order of 50,000 salt shakers, please.
50,000 tons of salt shaker. Brilliant. And you're going to get some pepper with that as well. But, I mean, look, I do get the whole thing where the private market does have its advantage with some things, but I think even when it comes to energy, I think the cons outweigh the advantages by a significant shot. I mean, look at it at the moment, because we've had this complete lack of energy policy in this country for like the last 10 years, thanks to a particular political party that shall not be named. We have blackouts and brownouts happening because not a lot has actually been built. Some wind and stuff has been thrown into the mix, but no storage because it's not economically viable yet. And as a result, we kind of have a grid that doesn't quite work properly. And if something's not done about it quickly, we're going to run into some serious issues very soon.
I can't remember. There was a video I was watching, and I don't think it was about sodium batteries, but it was about some other type of battery as well that they're currently testing. That I honestly can't remember what it was, but they were more acidic. They were like something in acid, but they were less dangerous in terms of they couldn't catch fire.
That's a plus.
Despite the fact they like to run at like 50 or 60 degrees Celsius. So that's like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But I think they were testing them in Las Vegas or somewhere in the desert. And that's a downside for cold climates, but it's great because the batteries themselves generate heat. So that's their optimal running. So what they were doing is they were working out that they could put all these batteries essentially in storage or land storage in the middle of a desert, and they didn't even have to cool them because
that is a massive advantage, especially for stationary storage.
And they didn't have to cool them because they kept themselves warm and their operating temperature was high. That the only downside is that obviously cold climates they'd need to be kept warm. But in most climates, like the middle of the United States or probably Australia,
any part of Australia.
Handy. Yeah, they probably would be fine. And keeping them warm is kind of really easy. You just insulate the box. You don't have to have
Speaking of battery technologies that need to be kept warm, have you guys heard of molten iron batteries?
No.
It's heard of that.
Yeah, it's David. It's literally a battery that involves having molten iron in the cell.
This could be the same that I've been talking about, but I don't remember.
It doesn't operate at 50
or thermal energy.
No, it still stores it chemically. But in order for the chemical reactions to work, it needs liquids. And in order for it to operate, because it uses iron in it, you've got to heat it up to be stupid hot so that you have liquid iron. It definitely doesn't operate at 50 or 60 degrees C.
Yeah, it could be very similar. Basically, these batteries, I was seeing a video on, and I'd probably have to go through my YouTube history to find it, was they were very similar and they were solid. And they basically melted the whatever was it. I don't think they had lithium, or maybe they did, but it was like the minuscule amount. But they were solid. They were when they weren't being used, or they were solid, and then once they would actually melt, and then I think their cooling down process was the actual decharge or something. But I do remember something like solid state batteries.
Solid state batteries look promising.
It's hard to make them efficient at all.
If you try, well, that's where I think things like sodium batteries would be really good, because the materials for them are cheap and you don't need them to be hugely energy dense if you're using them in a stationary, non-space refined application like grid storage. I think the battery I was thinking of, the molten iron one, is made by a company called Ambri, from what Google is showing me. Actually, no, this must be something different, because this one says it's comprised of a liquid calcium alloy anode and a molten salt electrolyte. Either way, it needs to be very, very hot for it to work.
Yeah, I don't think the ones that I watched were really 300 degrees hot. They were just
this one definitely needs to be very, very toasty. But
that creates a problem in itself.
It does. How do you heat it up? And I believe the solution from what I was reading about this one was, the solution to heat it up was you have a gas burner underneath it. And then very good insulation.
Oh God.
But
yes, putting a gas burner near your batteries makes sense.
But I mean, you could use an electric heating element, I suppose. You could use an induction stove.
Yeah, if something's got to be warmed up, I would just design it to sit around your hot water system, or your thermostat if you got one. Not thermostat, boiler.
Could we create a would we be hitting the laws of physics by having the battery heat itself?
You would have energy losses most likely.
Not to start, yes.
Not to start with, but
If it needs heat to get it started, then yeah, because it's not hot, so it can't provide energy to heat itself.
But I mean, as a battery, you can put energy into it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's things that work like that where they use their own energy to produce more energy, but it's always at a loss. And they do it because they're trying to achieve weight reduction or something like that.
I know it would be at a loss. There'd be loss there, but you wouldn't obviously like. Could you heat the battery where, say, the battery is putting out more power than is required to heat it? That you are going to still get a benefit from that battery.
Yeah, like these ones, they need to be kept at certain temperatures. And if I was operating in a really, really cold climate, I could put a little heater on this and have it run the heater, which would make it put out more energy, but it would also get flat a lot faster because it's having to run a heater. So you can do stuff like that.
I mean, the batteries in the Tesla Model S Plaid, I think they have a heater and the cooling system in the battery itself. And they use it as part of the preconditioning cycle for when you put it into cheater mode. Which, look, I'm just going to card nerd out for a moment, which is really cool. Basically, it adjusts the suspension and gets it ready to do the 1.9 seconds 0 to 100. Those things are stupid fast.
And then it's flat.
and then the battery's flat. But you got to do a stupid fast quarter mile, and you don't even have to rebuild your engine. So take that, Top Fuel dragsters.
And where's the fun?
I just want to experience that. Just once. Just once.
Like, look, I'd never buy a Tesla. And that may shock some people given how much of a lefty greeny lunatic that I am. I'm going to go out right here and say I would never buy a Tesla, and it's not even because I think Elon Musk is a dickhead. Okay, we need to clip this episode and in 10 years or so see if Jono has a Tesla. I will not buy a Tesla. I also am not going to buy a first generation BZ4X, but we'll get into that story in a second.
But there's also the Cybertruck. I mean, say no to a Cybertruck?
Look, no, I can easily say no to a Cybertruck. You know why? Because it's never going to exist. It's pure vaporware. It's pure vaporware. But no, the reason I'd never buy a Tesla, at least I would never buy a current or previous generation Tesla. And the reason for that is that the build quality is shit. They are not well built at all. Panel gaps, missing brake pads.
Missing USB charge ports.
USB charge. Wait, what?
There was a YouTuber who bought a Tesla and he tried to plug his phone in. He realized that they had the USB-C port, but there was nothing behind it. They just had the
Why?
It's funny. There's all these stories of like things like that. I'm sure there's the same thing about other cars, but Tesla still has the highest customer satisfaction rating of cars.
Yeah, but that's because it's a cult.
Yeah, but
have you seen
everyone who
comparing
buys
other
one?
electric cars is fantastic.
Have you seen how Tesla fanboys go on?
I have, but not everyone who buys one is a fanboy.
The big problem with Tesla is normally when a new car company starts, they're buying a lot of their car that they're making from other manufacturers and then just rebranding it, or they're buying a factory from another manufacturer and rebranding it. Tesla built their own factory to build their own cars. No one's done that, and there's a good reason. There's a lot of kinks that you'll need to iron out, and it can take decades to get it right.
It's almost like
and then they tried to automate everything. Yeah, they've tried to simplify it. I mean, they got those giga forges or whatever they are.
Gigafactories.
You seen those? There's like a forge thing that they put in them where
I didn't know about
forge the entire chassis. No, it's Giga Press.
A giga. Can they
It's like
stop calling everything giga? It's really annoying.
it's just this massive thing. It's like the biggest one ever made, and I think they've made 3 of them now. And it's just injection molding that makes full chassis.
Injection
It's all one
molding.
big piece.
So basically, they made it bigger. They made injection molded wheels that break as soon as you hit a pothole. They just made it bigger.
Performance-wise, it's not fantastic, like compared to say carbon fiber hand-built supercars, but for being able to build an entire chassis ready to go in a matter of minutes, it's unbeatable. So if they can get that going and focus on stuff like that rather than putting robots on every corner of their factory, then they might get.
Well, I think they just need to work better on their quality control, like shipping cars to customers with no brake pads in the front calipers. That's almost as embarrassing as releasing a brand new model of car where the wheels fall off, which is an excellent segue into Toyota's most recent fuck up. Dave,
I don't know what this one is.
So Toyota have released in the US their brand new electric car built from the ground up, and instead of giving it a fun name like Camry or Corolla or Celsior, man, Toyota came up with some great names back in the 90s. Actually, no, way before that. Back in the 70s. 20 years late on that one. They called it the BZ4X, which it's a weird name. But moving past that, there is a design flaw, and every single one of them has been recalled. You want to guess why, David?
Well, you said the wheels fell off. So
Yeah. So after short amounts of driving, the wheel bolts will work themselves loose, and the wheels will literally fall off. And I don't know why. And they haven't said why it's happening, at least not that I'm aware of. They have said this is an issue. Don't drive them. We will give you a loan car while we fix this problem. Which, I mean, Toyota doing classic Toyota stuff where they're like, okay, we've identified a problem. We're done doing the recall. Here's something to get you by while we try to fix this problem. But what
whoever designed that didn't look at the data readout for the bearings. Like if it's meant to have things mounted to it in a certain way and you do it differently, they can wear them out almost.
Well, it's not that it wears out. It's just the wheel nuts work their way loose.
They're taking all those and
so the wheel it's not that the wheel bearing or anything fails. It's just the wheel nuts themselves that hold the wheel to the hub just work their way loose. So I have 2 questions.
So the threads don't fail?
The studs don't fail or anything.
So either did they design the hubs wrong or did they design the wheel nuts wrong? Which is the problem?
I
Seems like
I don't know. They haven't said.
They put the wrong thread pattern on it, considering the types of metal they've used.
Okay.
They faced it the wrong way.
That's what would, like, if you have like a really steep thread on a really hard metal, it can work its way loose. You have to have like a really shallow thread. Or they've got like a really soft one. Oh no, it doesn't work that way. I don't know. It's weird.
I don't know either, and they haven't said. To the best of my knowledge, they haven't said. But the wheels work themselves. The wheel nuts work themselves loose, and as a result, the wheels fall off.
I'm looking at a photo of one right now. Isn't that just a RAV4?
No.
It seriously looks like a RAV4.
It does look very similar, but it is not a RAV4.
Is it the same chassis?
It's not. It's completely built from the ground up to be an electric vehicle. So it's a different chassis to the RAV4. Although, that being said, there was an all-electric RAV4 back in the early 2000s that you could only get in California.
They'd obviously make it look like their current cars because
why? Make them futuristic. I want Tron cars.
The factories are set up to make that type of a car, so they'd have to get much more different equipment. Like Hyundai made an electric car recently, it looks completely different from the rest, and it's fucking ugly. They should have stuck with their other cars.
Look,
I still think the Kia EV6 looks amazing.
Is that the one I'm thinking of? The one where it looks like it got a big Z on the side of it? Because it's creased?
A big Z?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
I've seen one driving around the other day. They are ugly. And then the same company is making that new electric DeLorean, which is beautiful.
I do like the look of that.
I haven't seen that. Oh, wait, maybe I have.
No,
It's meant to be a track car.
There's
awesome.
no big Z on the side of the EV6.
The back of the EV6 is
the back of it
is hideous.
No, on the side. It's not a big Z. It's like there's a crease in the metal that makes it look like a big Z.
Oh, I mean, I suppose if I squint hard enough, I can see that. I think the back of the EV6 actually looks pretty sick.
The front looks good. I'm not that keen on the back.
I like that back actually. It's like got a nice little pinch towards the top that makes it look like it's got a bit of a ducktail. Here, look, I will put it over on this screen so that all of our viewer can see it.
You like that electric DeLorean, Tom?
Let's see
really?
The electric.
Yeah, the
the
EV6
terrible.
isn't the one I'm thinking of.
Let's see.
Hang on, what did you type in?
Also, just a quick throwback. The video I was talking about is one by Real Engineering, who talks about, I'm pretty sure, molten salt batteries during that video. So I think we're talking about the same batteries, Jono.
Possibly.
And I now have lost my car's Google search.
But
that new DeLorean looks terrible. I do like the Tron lights going around it, though.
If you just typed in electric DeLorean, that's not what I was talking about. I don't know what that is. That is gross.
Look, there's an 80s DeLorean that's been converted to electric. That looks
I'll see if I can find what I was talking about.
But look,
this might be not fully electric. I'm not sure.
The important thing is Toyota needs to hurry up and fix this problem so that I can find out why the wheels are falling off these cars, because it's going to do my head in.
And to take this back to politics, I'll just call out that
let's do that.
The government needs to make electric cars easier to register or cheaper.
I respectfully disagree with you on that one.
Why?
I don't think that the thing holding back electric vehicle uptake at the moment is the upfront. It's not the upfront cost or even the cost of rego and running them on. How does it make it hot? How does it make it?
I didn't say it was doing anything. I just said they need to make it cheaper.
Why?
Because right now our registration is based on weight, which is dumb.
No, that kind of makes sense, given that, heavier a vehicle, the more wear it does for the road, so the more money they need to fix the roads, to maintain them.
Yeah, but it's I think it's just... No. It's not going to make sense in an electric car world.
No, I think once they're...
Or they need to retweak the equation to make it more comparable.
I'm going to be okay with retweaking the equation. But as far as I can tell, the big thing that's holding back electric vehicle uptake in Australia, it's not the price of them, it's not even the upfront cost. It's the infrastructure.
Yeah.
And
we also are traditionally a big country with very vast distances. That's why the fact is Holden Commodore was so popular.
Yeah, in this country, people want to be able to go on a 400-kilometer drive, and until we have charging stations at regular intervals, that's not going to happen. We've gotten to the point where electric vehicle batteries are able to charge fast enough that the range of any individual car is not the problem, because as long as you can charge at least 220 kilometers of range in 20 minutes, that's enough, because you should be taking a rest every 2 hours. Maximum speed limit in this country is 110, so you shouldn't be going faster than that, David, Tom.
I find it funny how they say range is... I find it funny how they say range is the downside to electric cars, but then I hear, it's got a 400-kilometer range. My RX-8 used to get 300.
Well, range is only a problem.
There it is.
range is only a problem when you can't refuel or recharge the thing. If you can, given that you should be taking a rest every 2 hours or so, give it 300 kilometers of range, and that's the maximum you'll ever need because you'll plug it in at home, so you'll always have a full charge. And when you go on long road trips, provided that there's enough charging infrastructure that is reliable between where you are and where you want to get to, you drive for 2 hours, battery's still got like 80 kilometers of range in it. So you then put it on charge, you go have your 20-minute rest bite, come back, you've now got a fully charged battery again, or 260 or whatever kilometers of charge, and you're fine. Range is no longer a problem.
I've heard a lot of complaints like that. That don't make sense. Like they're saying, I don't want to have to plug the car in every night. But plugging the car in every night takes less energy than stopping at a servo on the way.
You plug your phone in every night.
I love the idea of an electric car purely because I have solar. I'd have basically free fuel.
I did find that car I was talking about. It's called the Hyundai N Vision.
Hyundai N. See, look, again, it's a weird name.
Yeah, it is a weird name. 74 at the end of that, maybe.
And
Wait, is this the one you like, Tom?
Yeah, the one, the DeLorean looking thing. It's
that looks cool.
That's thick.
Yeah,
I like
it's meant to
that.
be a electric car designed for track days, and they're trying to make it cheap. So, want one.
Look, I second that motion. I also want one. But before I get one, I want proper charging infrastructure in this country. Auto expert did a good segment on his channel about it driving back to Sydney from Wollongong, I think it was. Or it might have been Canberra. It was Canberra, and he stopped in Wollongong off the top of my head. Is that or Wagga? I don't remember. We have too many places with weird names in this country. Please fix that. But pulled up the app to find a charging spot, and he just couldn't find a charging spot because he went to the one that was supposed to be working, and it just wasn't working. Because there's not enough chargers in this country, so there's a chance you'll get there and they'll all be in use. But on top of that, because shit breaks, they're not all going to be working all the time, which just exacerbates this problem even further. And it's one big advantage that petrol and diesel cars have, because in every town there's 3 or 4 servos.
Yeah, but the other thing as well, and I've seen this on a few even American road trips, all the chargers do get broken, and they seem to break, and it's because they're not staffed as well, that people are checking apps and that to find a charger, and then they get there and they're kind of left stranded because the chargers are broken, and there's no one obviously reporting or going out and fixing them and updating the app. It becomes a bit more ubiquitous.
That becomes offered by businesses more as like hotels, shops, service stations could offer a parking area with some electric chargers that you can pay to use or something like that. But you don't need a charger technically. You just need a power supply. It just takes longer.
Yeah, I think that will become more standard. What you're saying, Tom? Motels will probably have it at every car space. They'll have a charger. I think you'll start to probably see more, not so much service stations, but more rest stop areas.
Yeah, so like you'll have a Macca's that has 10 charging ports out the front of it.
Yeah, and maybe you pay as you leave, or you pay beforehand. You prepay at the charger to be like, I want 2 hours. It's like parking. I want 2 hours of charge.
Well, I mean, at the rate that electric vehicles charge on stage 2 or stage 3 chargers, you don't need 2 hours. I mean, on a Tesla supercharger, so a DC fast charger, you can charge a Model S battery from 20 to 80% in 20 minutes? Which you
should be stopping for anyway if you've flat.
Yeah. Which you should be stopping for anyways. And if you're going to stop and have a meal, you're looking at more than 20 minutes. So it's fine.
I like long drives, and even I would not go any more than 3 hours without stopping for 20 minutes.
So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the main thing stopping EV uptake in this country is two things. One, lack of charging infrastructure. And two, lack of actual EVs. There's just not enough of them for everyone that would want one.
There needs to be an extremely cheap option, like a little shitty hatchback that doesn't have good range or power or anything. It's just crap, because then they'll be everywhere. People love crap cars here.
I do love my crap cars. I mean, at the moment, I've got a Lexus RX 330 from 2004, which we use for getting the family around because it's a big, bulky SUV that uses way too much fuel. It has a serious drinking problem. And a GS 300, which I like to do fat skids in. Because
On back roads in Mexico.
on back roads in Mexico, also known as Tasmania. But I mean, look, I'm a petrol head, and even I love the idea of electric cars, mainly because they make stupid amounts of power.
I love the
I just
idea
like
of
the
free fuel.
simplicity of it. Like, if I know from my history, if I don't really enjoy a car a lot, I'm not going to maintain it, and I'm going to treat it like crap. And if it has less moving parts, it's probably going to last longer. So a daily drive that's electric would work for me.
I just like the idea because I like driving, so I like the idea of free fuel
I do
and
like that idea.
cheap fuel. If that's and significant costs in reduced costs in maintenance. That I owned a car that was a daily that I didn't have to maintain very much for a while, and it was great.
Oh, look,
It's
that
good, isn't it?
That's a great feeling.
Was that the Falcon?
I just spent.
Yes.
That thing was a piece of shit.
I think you did more
wasn't.
than that deserved.
It wasn't. It was a great car.
I've had
just
crappy cars, but
Anyway,
I like the one I got now. So I spent like half the day today putting it back together, and I am so tired of it.
Anyway, I think we're going to start wrapping up there. Does anyone have any final comments they want to make before we wrap up?
Nope.
Nope.
No, fresh out.
Very good. Well, thank you for watching, everyone, and putting up with our off-topic nonsense. We'll see you next time. So like, subscribe, press the subscribe button, then the real subscribe button, because apparently there's two buttons you have to press now. And goodbye, and never talk to me again.